today's a pretty warm day, and so the kids went to the local park to harvest some pecans, and I am going to pull up the sweet potatoes. As I'm pulling up the sweet potato vines, a few small sweet potatoes are coming up with them, and then it's uncovering the larger sweet potatoes that are underneath. Most of the vines, I just want to show you a couple things. Number one, here is what you might expect to pull up. This is one slip. This is what I've pulled up just from this one slip. There's a couple little ones, medium, a monster back there. See, there it is. And then as your vines spread, they root. So this is where the slips were planted in this box, and I had a couple slips planted in that box. But if you come outside of the box, you can see that a vine rooted. Look at this thing. It's always the ones that grow outside of where they're supposed to that are the largest, and it's connected to this, which comes from underneath the box. Look at this thing. This thing's huge. This is my hand. I'll have to weigh some of these. So we'll see what else we get. I'll keep digging. Okay, the first box is empty. I dug up all those potatoes. This is a 4x4 box. So just a couple observations. Number one, I screamed like a little girl about 3-4 times because in every single corner there was a toad, and it scared the mess out of me. Number two, we do well every year. And it seems every year gets better and better, which is great. But I did notice that the biggest sweet potatoes grew, there's the toad, there's one of them, you see it? The biggest ones grew towards the edge, which would make sense because, you know, there's going to be more heat by the edge of the box than in the center. So this, or maybe this one, were my biggest ones for this box. But interesting thing, you know, the one I found over here, this one, that was attached to this one, and they were both outside of the box. Well, the one attached to it inside the box, talk about a monster. So these were my two biggest, and look at this thing next to it. It's crazy. So another thing I noticed was that I had quite a few that split open, which I've never had sweet potatoes split open. And it's just because we had I wouldn't say we had a rainy summer, but I did just finish telling someone the other day that I never watered, other than just getting the seeds up, I never had to water once. And I normally do have to water, like we'll have a dry June or a dry July or something like that, and I have to water. I didn't have to water at all this year. I didn't think it was an exceptionally dry year. Exceptionally wet year, but obviously it was because some cracked. And all these that I've been holding up are all white sweet potatoes, so they seem to have been more affected than others. Like this orange one, like puckered, you can see, but did not split. Seems like only the white ones split, but they should be fine. You know, I'm gonna cure them, and my guess is they'll be fine. Sweet potatoes are really, I don't know if resilient is the right word, but yeah. So on to box number 2, which I only planted half that box with slips. Okay, box 2 is done. This box is a 3x4, and again, I'd only planted slips in half of it. Some of the sweet potatoes spread to the back, but I only planted slips in half of it. And this is what we got. I'm very pleased with this for only just, this is kind of like an afterthought. These were my two largest. They are huge. There's one. There's the other. I'm going to take them over. I'm going to take them over and compare them to my other largest ones. So these are my two largest from the 3x4 box, and these are my two largest from the 4x4 box. And I would say about the same. I mean, in total, probably the 3x4 boxes are bigger, but I didn't count this one, it's the monster. This is the one that was growing kind of halfway under the 4x4 box and halfway out of the 4x4 box. That was connected to this one. And then this is where I planted the slips, And then in June, when we got back from vacation, I just kind of let it go. You can see the vines grew out, and I'm sure if I dump that over, it'll be filled with sweet potatoes, but as you probably can see, it has no mulch on the top. It used to. It's been taken over by ants. So I can promise you, the second I dig in there, the ants are going to come in and attack me. So I probably will I'll either leave it and just let those sweet potatoes grow their own slips for next year, or I'll have my husband dump the bucket and we'll run away and we'll come back when the ants have found a new home and we'll get the sweet potatoes. I haven't decided. I'll probably talk it over with my husband first. Okay, so here is the final haul of both boxes, and I personally am very pleased with this. I think this is great. Compared to my other years, it's about the same number, but I have, some monsters in there, which the goal is not to grow a monstrous sweet potato, but I mean, the bigger it is, the more people it feeds, and they do not taste, some things, if they grow too large, they don't taste as good. That is not the case with sweet potatoes. As long as you cook them long enough, and if you're cooking them in the winter, it doesn't matter if it heats up your house. As long as you cook them long enough and they get soft all the way through, they're just as sweet, and they get sweeter the longer you store them, as long as you cure them correctly first, which I'll tell you about in a second. So when the kids get back, what I'm going to do is have them bring a haul of mulch, and we're just going to cover this dirt so that it was covered with mulch, but the mulch has kind of gotten in with the dirt from the digging, and it's also decomposed. So they're going to bring a haul of new mulch. They're going to spread it thinly over the two boxes, and then some of the strawberries are uncovered because they were covered by the sweet potato vines. We didn't see them. So we'll use the extra mulch to cover the strawberries that are popping out, and then over there we just have some strawberries that have popped out as the pine straw has settled a bit. Now what I will do is I will let these dry on newspaper inside the house for, I don't know, as soon as they aren't damp anymore. So I'll let them dry. It may take a week, it may only take a few days. And then what I do is I stick them in plastic grocery bags, and I put them in our pantry, which is right next to our refrigerator. And so the refrigerator kicks heat out to the side, and the pantry stays dark, and so it's a dark, humid place because they're in those plastic bags. And I keep them there, I can't remember, I think about a month, maybe two. And then I take them out, I wrap them up in newspaper individually. I do that because I saw it on a blog somewhere, but we are still eating sweet potatoes today that were harvested last October, and so over a year ago, and there's not even a hint of them molding or decomposing or rotting or anything like that. So I don't know, I may test it out. I may just put them in a box this year because they do so well. But I always organize them, like the cracked ones and the small ones I put in the box that's on the top, so we'll use those first, and the ones that are, perfect, that aren't cracked even a little, I put those, in the bottom box to use last. We'll start eating these probably the first of the year, maybe a little earlier, maybe by Christmas, and we will eat them through the summer. So we don't ever buy sweet potatoes from the store. We do buy potatoes, like garden potatoes. We haven't figured out how to grow enough of those yet, but we never buy sweet potatoes from the store. This does really well for us, even our family of 10. So that is how we harvest sweet potatoes, and you can look, I'll link in the description, and up here I'll link a card to how I start the slips and how I plant the slips, and how I got all these started. So I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.